People want to know what are positions they can use, maybe with a normal average size penis or a smaller than average size penis, to potentially stimulate someone very deeply. Totally. I really used to think that the positions conversation was overrated because people come in and they want a position, right? Like, what should I do? And my thinking on it was always there are 5 positions total, and everything else is a variation. So I went out and I bought every book I could find that was like 107 sex positions or whatever. I went out to kind of prove myself either right or wrong. I guess I was an open researcher, right? I had a hypothesis. I think there's only 5 positions. And what I found is that there are way more athletic positions that even me as a Pilates devotee can't hold. But if you rule those out, if you rule out the acrobatic positions, there really are maybe 5 positions for you to focus on. And every other piece of that is adjustment. So I recommend to people that you get into the mindset of doing A/B tests, by which I mean, do you like condition A or do you like condition B more? So for even missionary, let's just take missionary as an example. Condition A is missionary flat on a bed. And condition B is missionary with a pillow under her hips. If B wins the initial test, then we make another A/B test. Then we move the pillow up a little bit or down a little bit, and those become A and B. And then we try a thicker pillow and a thinner pillow, and that becomes A and B. Or we try a thicker wedge and a smaller wedge, and then those become A and B. In order to really find the positions that work for your individual bodies, testing is the best way. And I think the most neutral way, right? You're just collecting information to figure out what works best for you. This is even more true as you age and you collect injuries and, you don't even have to. It's just a Tuesday and you slept kind of funny. It doesn't have to be a lasting problem for you to benefit from making those micro adjustments. On top of that, what I'll say is that if you have a partner who is very, very lubricated, whether you added a lot of lube or you didn't add or she's just naturally very wet, then it's always a possibility to remove a little bit of lubrication to increase friction. This is something that I saw a lot when I was in graduate school, was that actually people benefited from like taking a little towel or a paper towel or a napkin and just gently removing some of the wetness to create a little bit more friction, only if it works for both partners. So that is something that you can use as you're exploring these various positions, because that actually makes a huge difference on both people's sensations. The other part of that is any position where her legs are going to be closer together is going to create a different amount of feeling both for her and for you. So if she has a lot of trouble reaching orgasm during penetration, try positions that allow her to change and test the width of her legs and the openness of her legs, because that changes the shape of the vaginal canal and changes what nerves and what nerve endings are being stimulated in each of those various positions. And then lastly, the experiment of testing the angle that the two bodies are together and how they're connecting. Yeah, because I studied one tradition called the Kudoska that believes there are 8 different types of penises and 8 different types of vaginas. And that all of human anatomy is sort of like one of these sorts of types. Falls closer to one of those, but it can also be a mix of any of them, so maybe there's an endless number, which is actually the truth. But if you think about it like that, then you don't really even need to know what type you are, what type your partner is, to know that all of those different things are going to come together differently. Yeah, and especially when I talk to men who maybe also want to compare themselves to porn stars or her previous lovers, or they want to compare her body to their previous lovers' bodies. The truth is, it's not just small differences in anatomy. There are people who have hooded clitorises and longer vaginal canals, and there are folks who have vaginas that tend to be drier and they tend to reach orgasm a lot more quickly. And there are people who have that you are combining something that is so special and so individual on one person with something that is equally special and individual on another. The only way to figure out how these two bodies go together is to trial and see what happens. Right. It's everyone has their own fit, right? And everyone has their own sort of connection. It's you Yes, the vagina is very flexible and it can fit a wide variety of sizes, but it is certainly a specific size, right? And some women will achieve orgasm more easily. There's actually differences in like the distance between the clitoris and the vaginal canal, and that's so individual. Like if they've looked at ultrasound studies and they've seen like some people have more thicker, some people have thinner. Like there's a whole bunch of variations that go into how sensitive a partner is and how lubricated they are, as you mentioned. And so like, yeah, it's worth it to try. And I would just add one little thing is like, don't try necessarily everything you see in porn, because that is like the highest level of what is possible sexually. But also they have like a team and they have like a camera that's paused and turned back on and all sorts of things. They have a warm-up routine. That would be like going to Cirque du Soleil and then leaving your home and being like, I think we should do acrobatic backbends now, honey. Like, no, those folks warm up, they're trained. They also generally like have medical professionals that support them because they get injured a lot doing those things. And you may not see that because that all happens during the 10 years that it took them to get to that stage. And you don't get to skip the 10 years and just go straight to the finish line and expect the same from your body. There is a lot that you can do. I put together a course on sex positions, and one of the bonus videos is literally warm-ups. Yeah, so that you can get into your body and you do them together with a partner, which gets you in sync and you're breathing and you're moving together. And then you go into trying the various sex positions and the different modifications. I mean, synchrony is actually really important. So there's actually science on synchrony and how like when you're intimate with a partner, everything starts to synchronize, like you're breathing and so I think that's a great way to sort of warm up. Yeah, totally. And then you bring that into the bedroom. One of my favorite things to do with my partner is take a yoga class together because we're literally moving and breathing together for an hour and we're sweating together. And by the end of that, or we go partner dancing, we do swing dancing together. And whenever we've done either one of those, the sex that we have is off the charts amazing. And it's not because we did anything differently in the bedroom. It's all the ways that we got in sync outside of the bedroom first. Yeah, I mean, even anything that raises your heart rate can do that, right? Because during arousal, that happens. So I think all those things are really great. And yeah, I love that idea of like taking just A/B testing. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about premature ejaculation. So I think this is a real problem for men, and they don't talk about it, right? But they don't last as long as they'd like to. And I think there's a lot of, from the medical side, there's very little that we offer. I'll be honest. Like there's a few behavioral methods, there's medications that all have side effects. There is nothing yet that I can say like, you come into my office and I can fix you right away, right? So I'd love to hear from your perspective, what are tools that you offer men to sort of help them? Yeah.
So premature ejaculation is really what sort of started my work with men because I was on a YouTube video about squirting and a bunch of men, literally thousands of men, started asking for coaching with me. And the most common issue that they were dealing with was premature ejaculation. And so I very quickly, and because I was just out of school and as a former researcher, I started just like running my own little experiments with them, sort of like being their own personal study groups. Yeah.
So, this was my sample size and this was the condition and the control group and all that. And what I have found is that if I was to give a one-word explanation for premature ejaculation or what really causes it, it's tension. And that can be tension in the pelvic floor. That can also be tension in the mind. Usually there's a relationship between them because of the way that our brain and body are connected. You don't really experience tension in one without having any tension in the other. And all of that pressure and all of that tightness and strain leads to our body doing the thing it evolved to do and getting out our genetic material so that our species can continue, right? And I always tell guys, like, please be a little more gentle with yourself. Your body's actually optimized to mate. Like, there's a reason this trait got passed down and exists in up to 1/3 of men today. That, in addition to breath, what I often teach them to do is connect their brain more intentionally with their pelvic floor. And that is through a mix of breath and movement and just somatic experiencing, really, because they're often so disconnected from what's happening in their pelvic floor that they can't even describe it as tense or tight or strong or loose. Like they have almost no information being passed back and forth between the two. I also teach them and highly suggest that they change the way that they're masturbating. A lot of men grow up masturbating as fast as possible to porn on their, in the family bathroom or with the door locked, right? And waiting, listening for every step down the hall going, is that going to mean I've been in here too long? Right? And so you condition your body to get to orgasm as quickly as possible, sometimes through even decades of masturbating to orgasm as quickly as possible. It makes perfect sense that your body's going to show up in bed and do the same thing. It's trained for that, right? And the way that you practice is the way that you play. So if you can get to 15 minutes easily in masturbation, then you can get to 15 minutes more easily with a partner. And they're not exactly the same. So we're skill building in masturbation, and then we're bringing that over to partnered sex. But a lot of the way that men experience masturbation differently than partner sex is more about what's going on in their mind than what's going on in their body. And there are amazing strokers out there for men. I'm sure people send them to you and then they send them to me, and they vibrate and they have vacuums and they're warmed or they're warmed. I saw one the other day that literally had a clock on it, which I thought was really cool for doing this because it was a timer. As soon as you started, it was like a stopwatch. It started. But I don't know, that could create more anxiety. You just flip it upside down. No, but I'm saying like if you were I think a guy would have a hard time not looking at it. Oh, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very competitive.
Yeah. I think it might be good for research purposes, but it could also increase anxiety. But I also think it can actually help them gain more control because they can think to themselves, I can't finish yet. It's only been 14 minutes. I have to make it to 15 minutes. And then they learn how to edge and how to breathe and how to use the actual techniques I'm teaching them and understand, where are you on a scale from 1 to 10? If 10 is you are about to ejaculate. Are you at a 5 right now? Are you at a 4? Are you at a 9 and you have a minute left before you can finish? Like, you can make changes to your behavior based on your goals. And then you repeat that over and over again, while at the same time addressing whatever stories you're telling yourself about partnered sex or how you need to perform there or what she expects from you or, that you're not enough or you're going to finish too soon. And eventually, with enough practice of both of those, you get to a place where you can not just last longer because you're able to handle more pleasure, but also you can actually get to the point where you feel very sure of your ability and it's no longer something that you're managing and you're just in the experience and choosing when to ejaculate. And I would say rather than handle pleasure, it'd be relaxing into pleasure. Exactly. Yeah. Allow for pleasure. Yeah.
Plus, it actually works. I use it on everything from countertops to my laundry. At $3.25 per bottle, when you break it down, you're spending less and creating less waste. Head to branchbasics.com and use code RENA for 15% off your starter kit. That's REENA for 15% off your first order of a starter kit. 1 concentrate, 13 refills, less waste, less exposure to questionable chemicals, and honestly, 1 less thing to worry about. Check it out. branchbasics.com/RENA.
And then I would say that 14 minutes is much longer than average, just for people listening. So average is like 5 to 6 minutes. So if you are ejaculating within 5 to 6 minutes, it's completely normal. It's okay to want more, but I'm just saying it's not necessarily physiologically, necessary. It's average. It's average. It may not be ideal for what you and your partner want, especially when it takes women 20 to 40 minutes to reach orgasm. So if you're able to last 5 to 7 minutes with actual penis and vagina intercourse, consider that you need to spend 15 to 30 minutes warming her up if all she has is 7 minutes and you want her to reach an orgasm with penetration. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'm such a snob now. I'm like, 7 minutes? Like, come on, let's go for 30. So other tips on masturbation that you think that people, besides going more quickly, what are the things men can do to make masturbation a tool to help them be better in sex?
I love this question so much. It's an obsession of mine. So I teach a system called the Erotic Blueprints, and it's invented by my mentor, Jai. I've got a whole YouTube series on it if you want to learn more about them. But I suggest using the Erotic Blueprints, which are energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter, to engage in masturbation. So what do I mean by that? Start with an energetic approach, which means way less physical and a lot more feeling into the energy that exists. So I'll give you an example that doesn't make it sound so woo-woo. If you rub your hands together like this, yeah, and then you float one hand over your arm, there's a space, like right here for me right now, where I can actually feel my hand and I can feel my arm, even without touching, right? I'm aware of the space between them. I can feel like a little heat. And we have this incredible ability to really, there are folks who can really feel the energy, and you can feel the energy from quite a bit of distance because they've really trained that and they're very sensitive. But if you do this with yourself, if you do that with your cock, and you just allow your body to sort of think about it like it's reaching out. My nerve endings on both my hand and my arm are like reaching for each other now, trying to feel each other, right? Even just something that simple can actually engage a lot of awareness that's not otherwise present because we're going straight for touch, right? So if we even just begin like say, oh, I'm aware that my body exists in space. Okay, that's interesting. I can feel like, oh, wow, even like with that, I can feel where there's tension, or I can feel where I don't feel things. And that's also very useful information. And then move from there into a slow, increasing amount of touch and amount of stimulation. So moving into the sensual blueprint is making it a sensory experience. So making sure that you have a space that feels like at least sensually supportive. It doesn't necessarily mean having like a perfectly clean room, but maybe you clear the clutter off of the bed, or maybe you turn on a fan or light a candle or something, just to give your five senses something to ground into. Men don't really think these things are for women, right? A lot of the time, but actually men are just as sensory oriented as women are. They just really haven't been given permission to like light a candle. Do it. Yeah. And maybe it's take a shower first. Whatever has you feel grounded in your body so that you can experience pleasure in all five of your senses. Maybe it's putting on music, but also using a high quality lubricant. Like throw out the old junk, you guys. Lube is cheap. It's 2025. Get a nice lube. It could be a silicone-based lube because it lasts a long time when you're masturbating. Or it could be oil. It could be an oil-based lube. They make your skin feel better over time. This is good stuff. Treat it like a self-care routine. And then don't use Vaseline or lotions, please. Get lube, or if you have to, oil from your kitchen, like olive oil is fine. But do not use other things. They're going to irritate you and they're not going to feel good. That's what lube is meant for. I like to think this is your guy. You want your cock to be with you and perform well. You have this relationship to it where you're asking it to perform despite the fact that you're using something like Vaseline. That's not fair. You wouldn't do that to someone you love. Treat it like someone you love. But begin to slowly ramp up. Do something called linga massage, which I also teach. Give yourself a massage instead of going straight for this should feel good, this should feel arousing, this should get me to orgasm. And then once you've done that for a while, move into a technique that feels like, you're going to get closer to orgasm. Depending on if you're edging, meaning getting close to orgasm and then pulling off, that technique might look different. Switch things up. Use your other hand. Especially if you want to last longer, change sensation. Maybe even bring in a toy, because that's going to be a different amount of sensation so you can train differently. And then finally, bring in fantasies. Bring in visualization, which is what I actually prefer, because I think going on a porn detox, if any of the things that we've talked about today really resonate and you think that porn is part of the challenge for you, maybe take a little break with it and instead visualize yourself with a lover in that moment. Maybe a real lover that you're actually with, or a future lover you want to be with, or the wife or girlfriend that you are calling in for yourself. Imagine yourself making love to her in those moments if you need some sort of erotic reference. And if you're able to just be present with yourself, with your body, with your experience, you don't need to add any visuals in either. And then play around with it. So all of these things, And you don't have to incorporate all of them at once, but even just making slight changes to your masturbation routine, even if it's just getting coconut oil instead of whatever petroleum jelly, these things add up and they really show your body that you care about it. And, it works just the same way it works with a lover. When you show a lover or partner or a woman in your life that you really care about her and her well-being, doesn't she also bloom and blossom under your care? Your body is the same. Yes, yes. And I love that. I think, it's always, oh, you're whacking off, all these things that we say when men are jerking off. It's also describing exactly what not to do, right? Like, don't just rush through it. Don't just, yeah. If you're listening, you should watch to see that facial expression. You should do to the weeds in your yard. Yes, yes. So, yeah, absolutely. And you can even try different textures, like you might have a silk shirt or something like that can help. Use a feather if you have one, right? Just try an experiment. Use the rest of your body. So much of our masturbation, both men and women, is so genital focused, and it ignores every other nerve ending that we have in our arsenal of pleasure. And your whole body can be erogenous, almost your whole body, maybe not like your chin or your elbow. People have trained themselves to do all kinds of wild sexual stuff, but yeah, most of your body is quite erogenous. So if you want it to be, you can orgasm without ever touching your genitals. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And try orgasmic meditation also, which I recorded one. It's free on my website. It just guides someone through all of those things, a breathing technique, a body scan. You don't have to just figure it all out on your own, especially if the voice in your head is like, this is dumb, or you don't know how to do this, or it's not going to work, or whatever. Listen to someone else's voice guide you through the practice until you feel the results, and then it becomes easier for you to continue to pursue. And yeah, I think a lot of men hesitate or think or really have to be convinced to prioritize their sex life outside of just having sex, right? Like if it means talking, like we talked about, having a therapist or other things. But the reality is that you should be doing this. This is another thought that you have in your head that's limiting you, And so let's think about, why is it stupid to care about your sex life, right? If you're spending the time here listening, if you follow your channel, if you care about getting it right on a physiological or biochemical level, why not take one or two extra steps to really bring it across all of the levels of your humanness? If you liked that clip with Caitlin V, make sure to check out the full episode right